A lot of people these days find themselves dissatisfied with the larger gaming market, a sentiment that I've grown to understand and agree with. A lot of AAA games seem to leave players searching for more. This is why over the past few years, I've found myself playing indie games far more than the big releases. Games made by small teams or even one person usually find creative ways to implement mechanics, unique avenues to approach narratives, and are just generally more ambitious as a whole. So today, I'd like to talk about a few indie games that I've really enjoyed lately. I tried to pick a variety of different games so that even if one genre isn't your thing, there might still be something here that you're interested in. I also provided myself with two constraints when picking games. One, the games had to be made by indie developers, and two, they had to have less than 2,000 reviews on Steam. This number told me that they were somewhat undiscovered, maybe gaining a bit of a fan base but no wider push, and a lot of these games have turned out to be true hidden gems. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe as it really helps me out. Hey Dad, it's me, your favorite son, and today I'd like to talk about underrated indie games. The King is Watching is a real-time strategy / base building game developed by Hypnohead. It was released on July 21st, 2025. In The King is Watching, we take control of a king overlooking the defense and building of his kingdom. The game takes place across different runs where we try to beat bosses and get further and further in the game's campaign, mustering forces and purchasing structures to get closer to this goal. In each run, we can see the castle proper on the left and the battlefield on the right. We can build structures in the castle as long as we have enough resources. These structures can be anything from resource-generating buildings to facilities that generate troops. Once we generate troops, they will be spit out onto the battlefield, and the small ticking meter at the top of the screen shows us what waves are coming up. Our troops will automatically fight the troops that try to destroy the castle. The core gameplay loop is pretty simple. If our castle walls are breached, the game is over and we're allowed to head back to the main screen where we can purchase a variety of upgrades with any currency that we've earned over the course of our run. But the true genius of this game and what makes it so addicting is really in the details. The gimmick of The King is Watching is that your buildings only activate when you are watching them. We have a small square that we can move around our castle to select different buildings to watch, and when watched, these buildings produce resources and troops. When not watched, though, they stay inactive. You can upgrade this box, which the game calls the King's Gaze, by collecting different resources across your run and turning it into a large rectangle, activating more buildings at once. This is a really unique mechanic that introduces a whole host of different strategies and ways to approach the game. It's like playing a mini version of Tetris to find the most effective placement for your gaze. You might want to group similar resource buildings together so that you can produce a lot of that resource at the drop of a hat. You might want to spread these resources out so that you can produce a lot of different resources at once. It's worth noting that resource buildings are not permanent, and you'll eventually tap the wheat field, the forest, or the clay mine dry. The King is Watching is a very fluid game, and RNG determines a lot of what strategy you'll have to go for in your run. This is because the way we retrieve troop buildings and resource buildings is generally through random means. We can get these buildings from other buildings that we can place, from the trader in between a certain amount of waves, and from beating certain waves. This usually comes with a choice of 3. That being said, there is a great amount of control over how your run goes. You might not be able to get the exact building you want if you're really unlucky, but just about everything comes with a choice. As waves flow toward your castle, you'll eventually get access to a prophecy. This allows you to select the next 3 waves that will attack you. You can optionally make these waves harder to get higher rewards, once again offering you more control over your destiny. I say all this to make the point that the game is actually incredibly replayable. The permanent upgrades that you get from the main menu change the way you play the game. You might be able to access more areas of the castle to build in. You might be able to start with more troops or resources. You can unlock new kings, which each have their own distinct modifiers, active abilities that go on cooldown, and parameter abilities that activate once you complete certain actions during your run. There are different maps that you can play, which introduce different modifiers and enemies to fight against. Each map can be completed on higher threat levels, which introduce stronger enemies. We can assign members to our council before each run, which adds new modifiers to our king and the way that we play. There's just so much variety here that playing it just once is almost impossible. It took me a pretty long time to even be able to complete the first level. Most of this was my fault because I wasn't focusing on one troop type or resource to specialize in. I was sort of generalizing my forces instead of getting one unit type and upgrading them specifically. But even though I was failing, I just couldn't stop playing. This game's gameplay loop is perfectly constructed to reel you in and keep you there. A tight spool of string tied around you like a straitjacket. You're trapped into playing just one more round because you might get it this time. Part of this is because of the permanent rewards that you get even when failing, but it's also because of the variety. Because you know that there are a ton of different troop types and resources, you know that you could just go again and try a different strategy. With a wide array of possibilities, the promise of potential keeps the player going. I should also mention that The King is Watching has a very unique style, which you've probably seen from these clips. The kings all look distinct and unique, but they're the only characters that we see in detail. The troops on the battlefield are all too far away to really truly make out, but their forms are still well articulated. This eagle-eyed view puts the king, or the player overlooking the battle, at the seat of importance. The UI is beautiful and has great feedback. It's doing a lot of the heavy lifting because it really is the whole game, just interacting with buttons and moving switches around. It's like operating a machine, but the machine is beautiful and it has lots of satisfying clicks and buzzes. Not to mention the absolutely amazing gallery paintings that we unlock after completing different stages. Even though I would highly recommend this game, I do have a disclaimer to make. The first is that The King is Watching currently has no mid-run save feature. This means that you can't save a run without completing it. If your house gets flooded during a run, you're just gonna have to restart that baby when you clean up the rubble. This is one of the biggest complaints that people have had with the game thus far, but in a Steam post just after the game was released, the team noted that they were already working on this feature and that they were planning free content updates as well. In the first 10 hours I played the game, I never had a run that was past 40 minutes, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me yet, but I imagine this would become an issue when you get to the endless mode. Outside of that though, The King is Watching is a fantastic project. I'm incredibly excited to see what the devs do with this game, and I'm not nearly done with it just yet. I'm going to be putting a ton more time into this, and I would highly recommend that you check it out as well. It's a truly unique approach to the genre, and is very lovingly designed. Faceminer is a clicker/simulation game developed by Wristwork. It was released on February 27th, 2025. To call Faceminer just a clicker game would be doing it an incredible disservice. Though it does have clicker mechanics, it approaches the genre in a very unique way. Its system is incredibly in-depth, with a lot of mechanics and features that keep the game running along very quickly. On top of that, there's a really good story running in the background that keeps everything tied together. Faceminer is one of the best designed games in this genre that I've ever played. Its narrative themes and messages are best delivered through this medium though, and you could only ever really fully engage with it through this interactive lens. In Faceminer, we play an employee who has just taken on a job working as a miner on his computer. In this job, we mine through different datasets, generally images of people or places, and select the pictures with faces in them. At the beginning, it seems like we're training some sort of face detection software, but the exact goal for this technology is obscured for most of the game. When we start, we have to buy datasets from the marketplace and pour through them manually, earning money once a dataset is completed. But pretty early on, we'll be able to upgrade our tech to buy an auto mode that will identify faces for us. We can upgrade this module and make it run faster, and train it to be more accurate, but these upgrades take power from our rig and require that we invest in some more sophisticated hardware. This means that we also need to purchase storage, memory, CPU, and cooling upgrades for our machine. This is the delicate balance that the game introduces pretty early on. Upgrade your ability to scan faces, which inevitably takes more hardware power, and buy more hardware to buy more upgrades, so on and so forth. If you're interested in the game, I would highly recommend checking it out because I will be sort of spoiling the themes of the game and some of the mechanics that you'll unlock, so check it out before I start giving away some of those things. A lot of the story of Faceminer happens in the inbox. You'll get different emails from coworkers, corporations, and even activists against the company that you're working for. These emails form the bulk of the narrative for the game, at least in a written form, but the rest of the narrative is structured by the upgrades that you get and the increasing power of your machine. Over time, you'll be able to buy cameras placed around the world to harvest more datasets yourself, not needing to buy collected pictures from the market anymore. You can train your facial recognition machine on your own now. This system also requires hardware and can be upgraded by buying more cameras to harvest more data. Eventually, emissions become a problem. Since we're doing so much computing, using so much power and water, our emissions are measured and we need to keep them under control. We can offset our emissions by paying to have trees replanted, but at a certain point, we'll also just be able to buy emissions credits, which bypasses the whole taking care of nature thing. This is sort of the main point of the game, and I won't exactly spoil the actual ending because I think Faceminer is worth playing yourself. But temperature is a critical part of this whole ordeal, and over time, the world's temperature begins to rise as well. If you haven't gotten the whole thing yet, Faceminer is a large commentary on the modern use of technology and AI. It asks the question, how far will we go with this technology in the name of profit? It uses the framework of a clicker game where the only goal is generally to make the number go higher, to increase the amount of whatever resource you're generating until you win. Except Faceminer disrupts that a little bit. You feel satisfied because you have successfully worked the system to generate record profits, but you're seeing things break down around you. You have to ask yourself, is making the number go higher the only thing that matters? Faceminer is a very short game. You could probably complete it in a couple of hours, and it's incredibly effective at keeping you seated for those few hours. While the larger point of the game is its narrative theme, that doesn't mean that the incremental mechanics are an afterthought. Faceminer is wonderfully structured with interlocking systems that on their own would rival some of the best clicker games in the genre. Sometimes there are drawbacks to getting upgrades. It's something that you have to think about before making the purchase. The game also looks great with a fantastic UI design that harkens back to Y2K operating systems, setting firmly in a very distinct era. The soundtrack composed by MadRec also gives the game a very unique feel, setting it apart from other games that try to recreate the desktops of Windows 95. The whole thing just has a fantastic tone that plants you firmly in an era, which is all part of delivering this game's message and themes. By immersing you in a time period, it makes the things that happen in that period more impactful and realistic. If you're interested in Faceminer, I would definitely check it out. I don't see a lot of incremental / clicker games that try to do something new with the genre, but Faceminer does, and it does it well. Haneda Girl is a 2D platformer developed by Studio Koba. It was released on May 23, 2025. Before Haneda Girl was released, Studio Koba released a game called Narita Boy that was another action platformer, but was showcased in a far different style to this game. Haneda Girl is a platformer where we play a girl named Chichi Wakaba. She is obsessed with an arcade game called Haneda Girl, and she's become good enough to be contacted by the developer of the game, Professor Nakamura. Wakaba is then given the opportunity of the lifetime as Nakamura asks her to enter the game and protect the Data Empire herself. Wakaba has to manage her life inside the Data Empire, fighting the Hackernaut forces, while also making sure to do her homework. The game itself is a pretty simple 2D platformer: jumps, dashes, enemies, environmental obstacles, etc., all the classic stuff. The ways that this game innovates, though, is in its style, its movement system, and its variety. The game is laid out in various smaller levels. Each level represents its own distinct challenge and structure. This is standard fare for the genre, but Haneda Girl is not an incredibly easy game. Its style is the result of combining Hotline Miami with Neon White, and then translating it to a 2D side-scroller with a sci-fi narrative. Each enemy has the capacity to be able to kill us with just one shot. If we're shot at as the main character, then we just die immediately and have to restart. Luckily, we have a mech at our disposal as well that we can use to tank far more hits than we can outside of it. This mech can also fire its weapons, taking down barricades and enemies, even crushing Hackernaut goons under its feet. But the whole point of Haneda Girl is its difficulty. Dying and realizing what you did wrong because you missed an enemy or approached the situation from an angle that you shouldn't have is all part of the fun. Each level is like a small puzzle that you have to figure out through a trial by fire. Dying over and over again to eventually overcome is the satisfaction that the game wants you to feel. And then trying the level again to get it down faster and get the highest ranking that you can get. It's this loop that makes Haneda Girl a really well executed platformer. The game really wouldn't be that much to write home about if there weren't so many options as far as movement and combat goes, though. Outside of the mech, we can climb walls, we can do a short dash, we can spend a battery to do a long dash. Inside of the mech, we can dash out of the suit and chain that with other dashes to get more distance. We can use our weapon to kill enemies in the mech, but outside, we can stealth kill enemies and also dash through hanging equipment to drop it on thugs. The most persistent feeling that I got while playing this game was just that there were so many options in front of me at any given moment. Even if Haneda Girl's levels are all kind of like a puzzle that must be solved, there's more than one solution to that puzzle. That was the thing that struck me about this game, was that there wasn't just one clear path. Sure, for speedrunners there probably was, but it was possible for me, someone who doesn't particularly excel in speedrunning, to get the highest rank on the level just by trying a few times. And I could have made it faster by picking apart the game and figuring out the perfect thing to do at every moment. But certain people are going to favor the mech in combat encounters. Others are going to figure out a way to take out every enemy in a room by using long dashes. It's honestly up to you, and Haneda Girl feels like it gives you the options to choose the route that's best for you. The game also has a particularly striking style that I just loved. The neon-colored backgrounds that change depending on the set of levels that you're in. The characters stand out so well, they feel very distinct. The purple blood scattered across the walls after you kill an enemy. This game is gory and kind of vicious, but in a really fun way, not something that ever makes you think about the Hackernaut lives that you're taking, at least not generally. The comic panels and codec screens and the calls and cutscenes also look fantastic, and while Haneda Girl isn't a game that relies on its story too heavily, the moments where dialogue was taking the center stage were always fun and light. It's a very simple game, but it uses that to its strength and keeps everything very consistent across its runtime. Haneda Girl isn't trying to do too many things, it's just trying to be really good at the thing it advertises, which is platforming and speed. Just like Neon White though, this game managed to draw me in by offering me little badges by completing levels quicker. This will easily take me hours and hours to get every level up to its maximum badge, but doing so unlocks secret levels and new weapons that you can use in combat, so the juice is worth the squeeze. Overall, Haneda Girl is just a fantastic platformer. I spent a ton of time with it, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone that likes fast action, some good challenge, and trying to get that timer lower and lower. Out of Hands is a card battling game developed by Game River. It was released on April 22nd, 2025. Out of Hands is an amazing card game because it actually got me interested in a card battler in 2025. It's not simply that I'm not interested in this genre, because I am, but a lot of card games just don't really do much to revitalize the genre outside of the minute details. Small mechanics introduced that maybe haven't been seen before, or some small new gimmicks, but Out of Hands looks, plays, sounds, and feels incredibly fresh and unique while also being a great card game. The game clearly takes inspiration from other surrealist titles like Disco Elysium and Hylix. Out of Hands places us in the shoes of a bandaged main character who is locked in their home. In this house, they are afraid of their own visage, unable to gaze upon the transformation they have undergone. At the same time, they are assailed by voices in their own head, the voices of logic, mystery, and action. These voices, while representing distinct parts of the main character's psyche, are also representations of the actions we can take in battle. In Out of Hands, we journey through dreams, attempting to solve the mind constantly racked by panic. To do this, we need to journey through different memories of our main character and find critical items, defeating shadow monsters and remnants along the way. We do this through a classic card battling system, but you'll see quickly that the basic framework evolves into complex mechanics that make the game truly fantastic to engage with. At the beginning of the game, our main character has awoken to find out that he's made out of hands. Because of this, the whole foundation of the battle system revolves around these hands that we are made out of. Our heart, the core of our being that takes damage and determines whether we are alive or dead, is a small pulsing hand. We have at least two hands in battle, a left and a right, that can be used to grab objects. It takes actions to grab these objects, and we start with 3 at the beginning of the game. We can use these items for free, but once we run out of actions, we have to end our turn to recharge them. The enemy will attack on our turn, and their structure is made up of 2 lanes. The upper lane are essentially the core bodies of the enemies that we're fighting. The core bodies will spawn smaller minions that can actually attack us and do damage. We usually have to destroy the minions before being able to attack the core body, but if we have ranged objects, then we can attack the core body directly before killing the minions. Destroying the core body first will cause the minions themselves to be destroyed, but of course with any sort of card game, the modifiers, attributes, and upgrades are really where the game gets its intricacies from. We can get new cards from completing different parts of the game, we can buy them from vending machines around dreams, we can even get them from defeating bosses, but we can also upgrade our face in the mirror. Changing certain parts of our face out with new ones will change the way that we play the game. We can get new hands, extras, or replace the basic ones that we start with. We can replace our mouth or our eyes. All of these changes generally give us less max health though. This is the trade-off to getting certain upgrades. The whole game in general is based around this trade-off structure. We generally do not get any upgrades in the game that come without some sort of cost. As we travel through the dreams and defeat stronger enemies, our cards will eventually become cursed. Certain cards will cost health to play, others will obscure their information until they are drawn. In exchange, those cards will get more powerful, but the concept is still there. We're getting power, and in turn, these cards become more unwieldy to use. Most of the cards in the game have an associated mental attribute: logic, mystery, and action. As we use these cards in battle and take certain actions, we will become more affiliated with one of these 3 attributes. This will inevitably affect the ending of the game that you receive, though I won't spoil exactly how. This game just has so many paths to take. It's not just a fork in the road, it's 12 forks in the road with 100 forks down the road further. This doesn't always result in a story change, but usually in gameplay changes. The system is so deep that it just begs to be tinkered with, and it helps that the system is incredibly fun to tinker with. On top of this, Out of Hands is a beautiful game. Most of the figures in the game, outside of the general outlines, text, and maps, are made out of stop-motion animation. This is reflected most clearly in the real world, back in the house, which sort of serves as the main menu for the game. Our character wanders around a circular building, inspecting different items, but everything is in this low frame rate animation that just looks so distinct. This gives the game a very unique tone that makes the player feel unease at almost all times. Everything is unfamiliar and slightly off. The surreal style makes you feel as if you're in a dream or on an alien planet or in some place that you've been before but you can't quite remember. Driving down a long road, you can recall the cracks in the sidewalk, but the trees are different. The grass is dead. It didn't quite look like this before. The whole game has a loud and sort of somber tone. Its environment is threatening, not just physically, but mentally, as if you might take the wrong step at any moment and learn something that you shouldn't have. The aura repels you, but not to push you away, to motivate you into moving forward, a sort of tonal reverse psychology. The style is distinct, but it's perfectly complemented by the strange and well-patterned writing. Similar to games like Disco Elysium, the characterized aspects of our psyche will speak to us and taunt the main character throughout the game. These characters are written well, they are distinct from each other, and their dialogue always reflects what logic or mystery would say, for example. I was incredibly excited to play this game when I first saw its reveal trailer at some showcase that I can't quite recall. It looks very unique and like it was right up my alley. I'm pleased to say that this game did not disappoint though, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone that likes this style of surreal storytelling. You don't exactly have to be the most hardcore card game fan to enjoy it either. While its systems are deep and unique, it will appeal to anyone that can understand it at the most basic level. Your House is a narrative puzzle game developed by Patron and Escondite. It was released on March 27th, 2025. Your House is a thriller told through narrative book pages and different puzzles. Clearly, most of the allure for this game lies in its presentation, but the substance is still there as well, because some of the puzzles in this game genuinely had me stumped. Some of this came from the fact that the structure to this game is somewhat unfamiliar and unique, meaning that it's not incredibly obvious how we can execute certain things throughout the game. To get this out of the way though, I just love to praise the style in this game. A lot of the art looks quite a lot like those classic colored comic strips, heavy lines doing the textural lifting in certain objects. The colors here are fantastic and there's a ton of contrast between the focus objects and the background. The whole thing just looks really good and gives it a detective noir vibe. Even the little cutouts of items that appear when we pick them up look like perforations in cardboard or a chalk outline. Your House's description on Steam states that it blurs the line between games and books. You could technically call Your House a visual novel, but there is a lot of interaction that goes along with the storytelling and the narrative. Our story focuses on a high school girl who is given the opportunity of a lifetime when she gets gifted a strange house by a mysterious benefactor. She then enters a world of mystery and intrigue as the house holds many more secrets than she, or we, could have ever imagined. A tale unravels throughout the game's runtime that keeps you constantly guessing, wondering where this whole thing will end up. The narrative is delivered through pages that look like they're written in a novel, even using a landscape orientation for most of the game. We can interact with certain words in these pages to advance the scene, move to different rooms, or inspect objects. A lot of the time though, we will get pictures that we have to focus in on and grab details from for other puzzles, or just pick up items through. The whole style is great. It feels like letters cut from magazine clippings, typewritten manifestos, jewel thieves, and smoke-filled rooms. Despite that, the game still feels pretty contemporary, with modern writing that is admittedly very well done. The main character in particular feels quite one-dimensional at the beginning of the game, but over time she is developed and fleshed out, bringing those other dimensions to the surface. But obviously in a puzzle game, those brain teasers are going to steal the show, and they really do here. A lot of the puzzles in this game had me thinking really hard. I unfortunately had to use the hint feature quite a few times, but I often spent 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure out what I was missing. The game really doesn't hold back here, and it honestly reminds me of other modern puzzle games like the ones from Simogo. But this is where the satisfaction comes from, completing these challenges and managing to think your way through things. The moral of the story is don't use the hints like I did. I'm a really big fan of puzzle games in general. Anything that gives me a mystery to solve and puts me in the shoes of the detective has my time and money. And Your House is pretty short, but I just really liked being in the environment that it created. And I don't mean the physical environments like the house in the game, but the ecosystem of the software. The white book pages changes shape and orientation to match the scene, the colors on the page reflecting the current mystery at hand. It almost felt like a light House of Leaves inspiration. It doesn't quite go fully into that territory, but it's definitely playing with the classic format in the same way that book does. There's also something to be said about the way that this game uses not only sound, but silence. There's a certain scene in the beginning of the game when the main character is worried about being caught in the house and someone rings the doorbell. The main character has the radio on at this point, so the buzzing of the old ringer is drowned out by the music so you can just barely hear it. Once the game forces you to shut the music off, the buzzer floods your speakers, and suddenly you feel the anxiety that the character feels. This absence of the joyful white noise turns the scene from a sort of comedic one to deadly serious in the flip of a switch. It's definitely a specific taste, but if you really enjoy puzzle games and want something that's going to test your skill, I would highly recommend checking out Your House. And I'm incredibly excited to see what this developer has in store next. Suit for Hire is a top-down shooter developed by God Mode Interactive. It was released on June 20th, 2025. Suit for Hire is equal parts Sifu, John Wick, Hotline Miami, and Max Payne. It's a fantastic blend of a bunch of different styles of action shooter. It's a blender full of amazing and intense projects, and the slush that comes out is not a thrown-together mess, but an incredibly addicting new creation. In Suit for Hire, we play a hitman hired to take on different jobs, infiltrating mercenary facilities and moving through different environments while bashing in thug heads. At the beginning of a mission, we're allowed to choose a weapon and customize our killer. We can unlock extra accessories and outfits from completing difficult challenges in missions. Primary weapons are unlocked from completing various campaigns across the map. Each campaign is made up of a few different missions that usually result in a boss battle at the end. Within each mission, we move through areas and fend off attacking enemies. We can do this by using our primary weapon, our fists for hand-to-hand combat, or a variety of weapons that we pick up on the ground. Our main weapon, at least the default one that we start with, will generally one-shot kill most enemies in the game, but we only have so much ammo in that weapon. The only way to get more ammo is either to perform executions on enemies or by getting a perfect shot with every piece of ammo in our magazine. This means that it is a good strategy to switch back and forth from using our weapon to also using hand-to-hand fighting and getting executions to re-up our current ammo store. Keeping a combo is important because this game is all about the ranking that you get at the end of the mission. The combo keeps ticking as long as we're getting kills, so spending too long in between combat encounters means that we're not scoring, which is no good. We can also pick up piles of cash around the map, which gives us extra points, and different enemies result in different amounts of score being added to our total. If we get shot or hit in the game, we die. We only have one bar representing our health. If that goes down, then we have to restart at a checkpoint, which gives us a score penalty for not completing the mission in one go. You are equipped with body armor right from the start, and each of these body armor icons will absorb hits from enemies. There's body armor pickups scattered around the various maps as well, so it isn't that difficult. But because death is so close at any moment, there are a ton of ways to avoid damage in combat. We can counter enemy attacks just before they hit to perform an on-the-spot execution, also granting us ammunition for our primary weapon. We can dodge out of the way of damage, and if we time it correctly, time slows down to afford us a moment to think. We can also jump dodge to get more breathing room from a group of foes, and perhaps my favorite mechanic in the game, the ability to slow down time. We have a stamina bar in the left-hand corner of the screen, but this bar is both used by running and by slowing down time. This ability is not withheld very much from the player because it recharges very quickly, so we can slow things down a lot, which is especially helpful at dealing with a ton of enemies at once. Performing an execution in combat also prevents us from being damaged by enemies, so not only is it a good way to get ammo, but it also gives us time to think about what we're going to do next and plot out our moves. With all of these weapons at our disposal, Suit for Hire creates the perfect environment for us to get into a flow state of sorts. The same type of state that you get into when you're playing games like Sifu, Max Payne, or the Arkham series. Something that sets this game apart from those, though, is that that state isn't easily achievable. It's not incredibly hard to make it through all the levels in the game. I wouldn't put Suit for Hire in the very challenging category of games to complete, but to get S ranks, to get good at the game, that's another challenge entirely. And Suit for Hire, if you enjoy its loop and its gameplay style, is going to give you tons of hours of content. It has a plethora of levels for you to enjoy, and even if you complete all of those, each level can be replayed on different difficulties to achieve better scores and higher ranks. You can even get more replayability just from going back and trying to get those S ranks on each level. Not to mention that with the 1.0 release of the game, it launched with a third-person mode, which honestly entirely changes the game. These are two totally different games in top-down and third-person, and they're both fun in their own ways. Suit for Hire genuinely brought me back to the days of playing Hotline Miami for the first time, but far less rigid. That definitely won't appeal to some people because the point of that game is probably the challenge and rigidity of the design. But the hand-to-hand combat feels like Sifu, slowing down time feels like the best parts of Max Payne's gameplay. This game just has all of the most fun mechanics in top-down or third-person shooters and puts them all in the same experience. If there's one thing I would have to criticize this game for, it would be its level design. The maps themselves aren't bad for the most part, but a lot of the paths that we need to take through them are not very intuitive. I would say that barring a full redesign on a lot of the levels, the only way you could really fix this would be with a simple waypoint system. It's not that big of an issue when you're running through a level for a second time because you already know where you need to go, but on the first time through, you can easily get lost because there isn't a clear indication that you needed to go back and activate a crane, for example. Suit for Hire is addicting, and once you start playing, you won't want to stop. Once this game has its claws in you, it won't let you go. It's a game that I'm going to put a ton more time into, and if this looks like something that's in your lane, I'd highly recommend giving it a try. Labyrinth of the Demon King is a first-person survival horror game developed by J.R. Hudipol. It was released on May 13th, 2025. This game was tonally shocking to me. I had never played a game quite like this before, and never really knew that I wanted something like this until I played it. Labyrinth of the Demon King takes place in a mystery land where the world has entered the latter age of the Dharma. We play an Ashigaru, a foot soldier whose lord and his army have all been destroyed at the hands of a powerful demon. Our hero's goal is to track down the Demon King that killed our lord and to avenge his life. We can easily find the stronghold where this Demon King supposedly dwells, but fighting the Demon King himself is a whole other task. 4 wardens stand guard over the entrance, and we must conquer their towers and defeat each of them before being able to fight the battle that our hero craves. The game itself is a blend of many different genres and inspirations. The visuals are clearly inspired by games like Silent Hill with the classic PS1 style. A popular visual style these days has been resurrecting that PS1 style, but a lot of games look more like a PS1 game if it was made on today's hardware. Labyrinth of the Demon King somehow manages to almost fully resurrect that style, especially in its cutscenes that look like genuine FMVs from the period. Part of this is helped by the fact that the game is in the 4:3 aspect ratio, and the menus of the game even state that this is the intended way to play it. But the game's combat takes inspiration from things like the Condemned games. We have a first-person view and mostly use melee weapons to fell our foes, though ranged weapons will become more common as the game goes on. It's a very gritty first-person system with tight corridors and not a lot of space to move. Blocking, kicking, and picking our attacks is very important. Labyrinth of the Demon King can be kind of punishing as well. Making the wrong move can result in most of our health bar dwindling away, getting rid of precious resources to bring it back up. The combat has a slow pace. We aren't jumping around and dive rolling all over the place, but this means that each hit taken and received has a lot more impact. There's meaning behind the swing. There's a large emphasis on stamina in the game as well. Each time we attack, we lose a certain amount of stamina. Kicks can break enemy blocks, but those require stamina to be used as well. Blocking is required, and timing your blocks can send your enemies reeling, giving you a short amount of time to attack. Weapons have stats as well, meaning that certain ones are better suited to different encounters. But upgrading our character is just as important as getting better at the game's systems. We can save the game at various shrines that we find around the estate. These shrines also allow us to make offerings of incense, which can upgrade our health or stamina, a choice that is left up to the player. It almost feels like a Dark Souls-like system, but it isn't really similar to those games at all. Labyrinth of the Demon King also has a vague wisp of Resident Evil hiding behind it as well. The door-opening animations, the puzzles that the game offers you, even the first time you encounter an enemy is very reminiscent of that original PS1 classic. The style also feels a lot like those classic FromSoft games on the PS1, King's Field and even Eternal Ring. Though Labyrinth doesn't really play like those games, just looking at the footage reminds me of playing King's Field 3 on the PlayStation 1. Anytime that we die, which will happen quite a bit because this game is a bit more on the challenging side, we revive at a shrine. The items that we grab are static though, generally meaning that we don't have to repeat what we just did, at least not without keeping some of the upgrades or puzzle items that we got before. There's a merchant in the game as well that we can buy wares from, different consumables, and even items to help us along the journey. Now, if you had told me about this game, a cross between Silent Hill, Condemned, King's Field, all placed in a samurai setting, I would have said that it probably wouldn't work. But Labyrinth of the Demon King works on such a fundamental level. As just a base horror game, it is fantastic. There's so much atmosphere here, not only doing great work in the visuals, but also excelling with sound design and OST. The game just feels kind of gross to play. It feels like we're being pushed away by this place, a journey that we must go on to avenge our fallen brothers, but the environment itself is telling us to get out. We push on regardless, but as we delve deeper into the place that wants no one in it, things start to get worse. It's that tension that builds while you're playing Labyrinth that makes it truly special. Not to mention the fact that it's also a unique blend of a bunch of different things. It also throws in new ideas of its own. If you enjoy survival horror games, Labyrinth of the Demon King will be right up your alley. It's perfectly replicated that classic style, but it also brings a lot more of its own to the table. Click to Continue is a game developed by Basilute. It was released on May 15th, 2025. Click to Continue is another incremental/clicker game, but much like Faceminer, it tries to iterate on the genre and create something entirely new. We start Click to Continue with no explanation in a white room, but the title of the game is a pretty good indicator of what we have to do. Click the large red button directly in front of us. The walls in this white room are covered with different small panels, and each of these panels has a small number at the bottom left corner of it. This number represents how many clicks we need to unlock that panel. As we click the red button, panels will slowly start to unlock, and we'll get access to new features of the game. One of the first we obtain is an auto clicker that will automatically rack up clicks for us, making some of those larger number panels more possible to unlock once some time has passed. The ultimate goal is to get the door behind us to unlock, giving us our freedom and an escape from this room. But that door has a much larger number on it, 100 million when we start the game. Most of the things that we unlock, though, will help us move forward in that goal, getting more clicks. The auto clicker is quickly powered up by a small mini game that we can play underneath it, Simon Says. This mini game, for every cycle completed, will add 1 strength to the auto clicker for a certain period of time. There's another mini game that we unlock in the starting section that gives us access to a small pusher machine, and we can knock small weights into a hole that grant us larger numbers of clicks. A coffee machine can eventually be unlocked to give us a sweet inhale, which increases our clicking power for a short period of time. There are so many little features in this game, and each one is uniquely its own. They aren't all mini-games in and of themselves. Some of them are just little jokes or quality of life features, like the mute button, the music player, or the little motivational posters hung up around the wall. Click to Continue has a very light comedic tone, one seemingly criticizing the office workplace nose to the grindstone attitude. It's never too heavy-handed, just sort of looming in the background, and all of this happens while a watchful eye lords over us, ensuring that we're meeting our clicking quotas and advancing our corporate requests forward. One of the most interesting mechanics that you get is early in the game, a computer terminal is unlocked that allows you to hack into different devices around the room. As long as you have a serial number, you can hack the device and increase not only the amount of clicks that the computer automatically generates, but the efficiency of the device you hacked. For example, when hacking the small robot vacuum companion that you unlock, you increase the efficiency of the vacuum while also getting extra clicks from the computer. The hacking process has a long set of rules that I won't explain, but you need to collect certain information on the machine by inputting certain processes with the serial number to be able to get the right code to hack the device. It's such a nice little minigame, which actually required me to pull out my notepad, and I used it often throughout the runtime of the game. The game gets more and more wild as its runtime goes on. You unlock crazier features, a lot that I won't spoil simply because I think this game is worth trying out for yourself. It's just really impressive what this developer was able to do simply within the confines of this small room. Everything in the room is constructed to keep your attention. At the beginning of the game, it might seem tedious that you just need to sit there and click a red button until you inevitably get up to 100 million clicks and can get out of the room. But so many features are thrown your way that after about the first hour or so, you're barely standing at the red button for too long. The game constantly throws new features your way so that you're never really idle for too long. You need to make sure to keep checking the coffee for the click power boost that it offers. You need to make sure to do the Simon Says minigame to power up the auto clicker. You need to make sure to find new serial codes hidden around the room to get more hacks and increase the power of the computer and the machines that you use. And most importantly, you need to click that red button. Click to Continue is a pretty short game, which is why I don't want to talk about too many of its features in depth. It only takes a few hours to complete, and the game's loop gripped me so much on my first run that I just beat it in one sitting. I simply couldn't stop playing the game. It's a very small concept, but a genius one that is executed so well, it is damn criminal that this game has so few reviews. Click to Continue is only $5 on Steam, and I honestly couldn't give it a higher recommendation. Go check it out. Vending, Dokan, Kozy, Kiosk is a management simulation game developed by Aftabi Games. It was released on June 7th, 2025. I found Vending, Dokan through Aftabi Games. I played their previous farm simulator, Sunnyside, in one of my worst reviewed Steam games videos. That game showed promise, and I wanted to see what the studio would do next. Part of the issue with that game was that it was just too ambitious to really execute well with such a small team. But this game is a much smaller concept that Aftabi executes on very well. In Vending Dokan, we run a vending machine business around the city. We can buy new vending machines and place them in different locations, alleyways, street sides, and even shopping malls. We buy stock online and place the stock inside our vending machines to offer products to any potential customers walking through the area. As long as we have product back in our office, we can restock by simply clicking on the machine. Keeping the machines up and running, though, is another task entirely. After a certain amount of use, machines will become dirty and even break down. We'll have to enter the maintenance menu so that we can use a sponge to clean the dirt off the machine. We can also fix the different pieces of the machine by slamming a hammer into the screens, which works incredibly well. Keeping up with this balance and maintaining our machines is essential to provide reliable products to our customers. The goal is to complete various milestones in the game, which we reach when we earn a certain amount of money from our vending machine business. By completing milestones, we earn more money, new items that we can offer for sale, and unlock mechanics to use in the game. But we don't just need to keep the machines clean, we need to keep the area around the machines clean. The filthy animals that frequent our alleyway will inevitably throw their trash all over the place, even though there's a trash can right there. Each location has a rating that determines their cleanliness and vibe. Increasing cleanliness is as simple as picking up the trash around the area. To increase the vibe, we need to litter the area with lighting, seats for people to use, and decorations. This will give our location a better aura for our customers to enjoy, though I'm not sure if this has an actual tangible effect on the customers. It may actually bring more people to the location, but I'm not sure. Eventually, we'll be able to hire employees that can take care of our machines for us, to clean up our locations, and to organize our stock. We can even get brand deals with certain manufacturers. We'll be given tasks to complete for each brand, usually to sell a certain amount of their products in a specific time period. If completed, we'll get some cash and a boost to our relationship with the brand. This will give us discounts on future orders, which is a huge bonus. Now, all of these things are standard management sim features, and things that you'll find in a lot of these games. The loop itself is pretty fun and interesting, though to be fair, the last few milestones are a bit unbalanced, and once I had unlocked the second location, I was just speeding to the finish line. I'll give the developers the benefit of the doubt here by saying that the game is in early access and has been receiving steady updates over the past month or so. But Vending Dokan isn't exactly a hardcore management sim. It's more about the atmosphere and customization. With every machine, we can change its color, we can place stickers all over it, and change their orientation, size, etc. This is where you'll probably spend the majority of the game if you're someone that likes to personalize your experience. My favorite part of the game, though, was just the atmosphere that it generated. Customizing each location was a treat. You can actually unlock rare stickers and decorations by using these machines that slowly generate them over time. The game also has a static camera angle that you can switch to view your location in different ways. Part of the game is just kind of listening to the music and watching your location run itself. The game looks good, it has a great style, and it feels like it transports you to a time and a place. You feel the atmosphere of this small alleyway in the city that, for most people, is just a stop on the way to where they're going. But you're here for good. I would really recommend this game to anybody that enjoys a sort of relaxed experience like this. I definitely wouldn't recommend this to someone looking for a hardcore management sim experience, because that aspect of the game is kind of secondary. You can think of it like The Sims for vending machines. The people that are going to put the most time into this game are the ones that are going to customize a lot and enjoy the atmosphere, rather than the ones just trying to min-max it and rush to the end. The team also has a roadmap out and have plans to release multiple locations and new features before the end of the year, so keep an eye out on the full release if you need more content to be sold on this. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I hope that you found something in this video that you think is worth checking out. I played a ton of different games for this video, and some of them I didn't include just because I didn't have a ton to say about them. I wanted to include games that I wanted more people to see and wanted more people to play. If you thought something in this video was interesting, go check it out, give it a try, and if you liked it, be sure to review the game on Steam. That really helps the developers out a ton. That's the whole goal with these videos, to try and get more people to take a look at these projects and give them a chance. If you have any recommendations for underrated indie games, leave them in the comments below. I'm always looking for new games to try and new experiences, so I'll definitely check them out. Also, shout out to everyone that supports me over on Patreon. You're the real ones. If you'd like your name to appear in this list of real ones right here, then go to the link in the description and sign up for the Patreon now. I provide some exclusive content over there, which lately has been me reviewing different video game adaptations. I've almost finished watching and reviewing every single Resident Evil movie over there, and it's been a great time. See you next time. Bye, Dad.